Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. I'm here today to talk about the overall view of the transits that we can look out for 2023. If we look overall at the general view, we have a lot of different New Years, you could say. We have the Chinese New Year that's happening end of January. We also have the Humandesign Year that's happening on January 22nd. And we also have the Gregorian New Year that happened on January 1st. Ultimately, we're given lots of opportunities for new beginnings. If you look at the Humandesign New Year, that will happen on January 22nd. That will be the gate 41 is the only initiating codon that starts everything. It is also called decrease, which really talks about this idea of getting rid of the things that don't matter to you anymore, or the things that didn't serve you, or the people, places, the energy that you put in things, and realize that that seed that you had planted wasn't actually going to grow the way you wanted it to grow. So now it's time to start to move forward into 2023, carrying with you the lessons that you learned from 2022, but not really trying to take any of the baggage with you. And when I talk about baggage, I'm really talking about this idea of if things didn't go to plan or things didn't go as we wanted them to go, sometimes it's easy to bring that into the new year and wonder if you will get the things that you want to happen in the year ahead. And that is one of those stumbling blocks that truly doesn't belong when you're trying to move forward. Are there lessons that you could learn from the way things turned out? Absolutely. But that's really all you need. And that is sort of what we're looking at for the overall theme of 2023. This is a lot of energy that's going to be repeating that we have seen in 2022. For instance, Pluto will be remaining in the gate 60, and it will be talking about limitation and transcendence. And the transcendence comes from this idea that when we feel, or our minds, for instance, feel that we are not limited. In fact, we do have an ability to move within the parameters of where we are in our existence. It is then that we have this transcendence of the limitations where they no longer matter. And usually that's when we have some leveling up that happens in our lives. Or alternatively, the obstacles sort of move out of our path and we start to have some freedom to move forward. The other perspective is we also have Neptune staying in the gate 36, and it's going to be going through all the different lines. So it'll go from line 1 right to the line 6. So it's giving us the full theme of what Neptune means in the gate 36. And with Neptune in the gate 36, we know that it's connected to experiences. But Neptune is notorious for being very veiled and not really telling us what we need to know. It's only at certain times in the year that it will give us an inside view and show us where we're going, what we're learning, and how things are going to play out. So the most important part is, as I said last year in 2022, is this idea of holding your experiences loosely and realizing that what you expect may not be what you get, and being okay with that, understanding that that is the energy of experiential energy, and that we never really know. If you look at logic and abstract energy and you see that logic is a pattern and you sort of run a program and you think, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. If I do this, I will get this. But that is not abstract energy. With abstract energy, you just jump into the deep end a lot of times and you get what you get. And you always will get an experience. What you take from that experience is fully up to you. But we will have opportunities to experience life. We'll have opportunities to have new experiences that we need to make us stronger. Uranus will stay in the gate 2, and we'll continue on until it shifts into the gate 23, where we had a little bit of a taste of that in 2022. So it will continue its transit into the gate 23 right into 2024. So again, we're having a redo of the energy of 2022. Saturn and Jupiter, however, will be giving us new energy. Saturn will be moving out of the gate 49, where it was very impactful in the gate 49 for 2022. We're finally going to have it move out, and we're going to have it moving into the gate 30, the gate 55, and also the gate 37. So brand new energies. The 30 we had last year a bit again. So that again is one more repeat. But then we have the gate 55 and also the gate 37. Another interesting theme that we'll see play out within the year is that we have almost like two separate parts of the year where we have a first half and a second half. So for instance, the first half is where most of the planets are going direct, and it's almost like that's a time where we can strike while the iron is hot and get some things done and get some advances in the places we want to. It doesn't mean the second half of the year we can't get advances, but it does say that they may come sort of more sporadic than they do in the first half of the year. The other perspective is that we will have a lot of nodal changes. I'm going to spend some time talking about the nodes because I think they're going to be quite impactful this year. Every nodal shift that we're having as the year progresses is actually going to be activating one of the splenic gates or the awareness gates, and sometimes called the fear gates. So that's something that will have an ability to be working with that energy, using it to our advantage, working with the energy in a way that we can come out of it feeling more healed and as though we have conquered anything that might have been holding us back. So we have lots to talk about. It will be a long ride as we go through. What I think I will do going forward is take out some small parts and maybe just kind of repost them as a highlight. So if you find it overwhelming, I'll have little highlights so that it will be more digestible, you could say. So with that said, let's get into the details. So I've made a list for anybody who likes to have everything sort of succinctly written out so that you have an idea when the transits will be happening. I've made lists of each quarter so you can have an idea of how things are going to play out. But for this transit video, I'm going to do all the energies of each gate, or in the case of the slower moving planets, each line. I'm going to do it all together just for clarity, because otherwise we'd be all over the place. And it will also show this idea of how we are moving through the energy in a way where we're kind of leveling up, you could say, because we always go from the first line and we finish on the sixth line. The first line is where we're building a foundation. The second line is where we're looking at the information we have and waiting for the right call for us. The third line is we're out in the world experimenting with what we've learned. The fourth line is where we're building a solid foundation from what we've discovered from our experimentation. The fifth line is the universalization, or how we see this energy playing out in the world. And the sixth line, we're already looking for the next energy forward. We're looking at the next gate. So we have a melding of the energy of the gate we're in with the next gate in the mandala. So if we look at that from that perspective, we're looking at a progress happening as we move through the lines of the energies of each particular gate that will be highlighted for 2023. And you can see easily based on the transits and how much we have in each quarter of how many things are happening, how things start to slow down as we sort of hit the middle of the year. And that is sort of a time where we can kind of take a pause if the universe is showing us that's what we're meant to do. And that is one of the hardest things for us to kind of get our heads around, because a lot of times there's this push to always be going, to always be doing. And if you sit and stop for a moment and actually start to reflect on what's happened in your life, people will say that you're being lazy or you're really not going after your goals. But that is not the key. The key with this energy for the whole of 2023 is that you're going to need to stop and reflect and see where you're going, because there is a lot of abstract experiential energy that's going to be in play for the year. And without that reflection, you're really not going to know where you're going right, you could say, and where you need to recalibrate and shift things up a little bit. And if you even look at the quarters of the mandala and how they play out in their themes, we have the first quarter really talking about planning, having ideas, working with your mind to decide where you want to go in the future. And then we get to the second quarter, and this is a quarter of civilization. This is where we're actively concretizing some of the things that we've decided that we wanted to do. That doesn't mean it can't happen before, but it is kind of the theme for the second quarter. And the second quarter is still quite busy. And as I said, when we get to the third quarter, you can see that there's a lot of retrogrades and things are slowing down. Although we do have a nodal shift happening in the third quarter that I feel can be quite impactful. Where the third quarter is about duality or partnerships, now we get into the fourth quarter, and this is really talking about mutation and things kind of coming out of the blue and really not knowing what's going to happen, because you've set all these seeds out, you've done a lot of work, and you don't really know how it's going to grow. So we've put all the seeds in the ground, we might see a few things coming up, and we don't know if it's going to continue to grow or if it's going to wither and we need to plant something new. And that's sort of what happens when we get to the fourth quarter, and then we begin all again. So if we look at the beginning of the year, we have Pluto already in the gate 60 line 2. We've already looked at the theme of the gate 60 line 1, and that every first line energy, as I said, is this building of a foundation to find some security in the not knowing, you could say. If you look at the color that is connected with 1, it is the color of fear, you could say. But fear is the master of all intelligence. That's what Ra Uru said. And really that means that when we have anxiety or fear, or we're scared of the unknown, when we research and decide that we need to find more information, or you need to find more information about something, a lot of times you can feel a lot more secure because you know something that about this thing that is brand new. You know, for instance, if you have to go to a new job, before you go to that new job, you want to maybe take a drive to the new job to have practice with the route so that you know exactly how you're going to get to work when you start. So that's one thing, that you have that knowledge about that new job, how you're going to get there. That takes that impetus away of that anxiety that you might feel of, oh, will I be there on time? Because you've already sort of done the legwork. And that's really what we learned from the gate 60 and the line 1. It really taught us about the idea of what limitation meant to you and how it can be incorporated into your life so that you can move forward, continue to live, and not always feel oppressed by not having those things that you want. Now, some of the things that we saw in 2022, and of course, we can also look at this being Saturn at play as well in the gate 49, is we had some of these limitations on, for instance, baby formula, limitations on food. A lot of countries were stopping exporting things. So you started to look at things. How can we do it in a way that is more sustainable for us to live and not really always rely on somebody else? And that is what the gate 60 line 1 was teaching us, or teaching the whole collective, because it is sort of this idea of this generalized theme that comes in and shows you something different. And I think when you first start with something that is brand new, it can be overwhelming and impactful. But as the year progressed, maybe the limitations that you found in your life were something that you could start to think about alternative ways. And we bring in the gate 56, which is the opposition that gives you strategies for how to work with the energy of the gate 60. And that says creativity, using stories of the past. What did they used to do? Those types of things were this remedy to work with the limitations of your life and in general. And in 2023, that continues to be a theme that we're going to be looking at. How can we creatively work within the limitations that we have? So we know that the limitations are transcended when it is the right timing, when we get the universal directive that says, okay, now it's time for you to transcend. Until that moment, living within your limitations, understanding that this is part of your growth, because Pluto is always about growth. And when we look at Pluto in the gate 60, we know that that is the end of the mandala. This is the end of all, and we begin a brand new cycle that's going to begin in April 2024. And that is when Pluto makes its initial trip into the gate 41 after about 248 years, which is quite a long time. And it's bringing a brand new energy into the collective. The gate 41 is the beginning of all things, but the gate 41 comes in and says, okay, now it's time to streamline your life. What do we need to keep going forward, and what will we let go of and sort of move away? But the gate 60 is also really trying to get us to let go of the things that no longer serve us, to let go of the habits, the things that we do that maybe are not in your best interest, the things that you do that maybe sabotage you, but you're looking at it and saying, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And now is your opportunity to get rid of those things that just don't serve you any longer. And with the gate 60, it's almost like a trial by fire where you have to actually start to shift things up, because the gate 60 says, okay, this is mutation. We are making something new out of the old material that we have. And now you have to shift. Now you have to make something new of what you already have in your backpack and make it into something that you want to carry forward into the new world, you could say, or the new energy of 2024. We started the year of 2023 with the gate 60 line 2, and because Pluto is going direct, it means that it's going to move through the energies a lot quicker than when it's in retrograde. So it will go through right up to the 5th line, the gate 60 line 5, before it begins to retrograde. So we start with the gate 60 line 2, and this is about the idea that already Pluto is giving us the indication that it is letting go of some of the heavy duty limitations that it began with. In other words, it showed us what we needed to look at in the beginning, but now it's saying, okay, you've seen it already. And if you're making changes, we're going to release the hold on you. So that's what Pluto's telling us. But with gate 60 line 2, sometimes we don't always see that we are being released and that we do have more opportunity to see something. So the gate 60 line 2 is really saying, okay, there are opportunities out there. It is your job to be open and to see when an opportunity drops in your lap. There's an alternative where you could not be looking, not be seeing, and you miss something. And that is what we don't want to happen. You definitely want to get those opportunities that are going to be there for you. Keep in mind that Pluto is neutral in the gate 60, so we can have all expressions of the energy play out as the year goes by. So when we get to the gate 60 line 3, this is where you might feel that you are extremely limited and you don't really want to do it anymore. You can't handle it anymore. And maybe you want to break out, and that's okay if you do that. But the only thing that the gate 60 line 3 says is that if you break out of the limitation before you've actually transcended it, or the universe gave you the cue to say this is, the next step in your journey, then there might be something else that comes in your way. So in other words, you could break the limitation, decide that you're done with it, but then have something else block your way quite immediately. Now, if you don't mind, if that's not a big deal for you, if anything is better than what you have, then go ahead and do it. Otherwise, it is about this transcending of being okay with what is and knowing that in our reality, nothing is permanent, and that the limitation that is within your life right now is transient. It will go, as everything does. Change is one of those things that we can always count on. A lot of times we don't want change, but sometimes we really want change. But ultimately, it will come, and you can transcend the limitations that are within you or within your life, but it is about having patience with the process, or your process in general. In February, Pluto moves into the gate 60 line 4, and then we get into resourcefulness. And as I said, it is this evolution of the energy. So we go from the foundation, or defining security in our limitations, or what will make us feel good. Then we go to the line 2, where we're sort of looking for opportunities that might be showing up, or the call that is correct for us. And then we go to the line 3, we are experimenting with what our limitations are, how far we can push the boundaries. And then we get into the gate 60 line 4, and this is called resourcefulness. And it is this maximizing of the potential that you do have. What do I have within my tool belt, and how can I use it going through the year? This is asking you to call on your resources, the things that you know about yourself, the things that you know about your life, to use them in a way that is productive, to use them in a way where you are maximizing the benefits so that you can get the most from what you are putting into the things that you're trying to make happen in your life. And there's also the alternative where you become frustrated with the limitations and you just don't want to try anymore. But what can happen is you might give up, you might throw in the towel and not even try anymore and just say nothing's going to happen. And ultimately, that's when something will happen. So it is usually the tipping point where you feel like you just don't know if you can push any further, that's when the universe says, okay, we got you. And they give you an opportunity to move forward, to transcend that limitation and to level up in some way. We finally get into the gate 60 line 5, and that will be happening in April. And this is the last push that we have before we have Pluto going retrograde, and it will slow down, and it will probably give you an opportunity to start to reflect on how things went up until that moment, or up until that time. It will stick in the gate 60 line 5 for a long time, so we will be working with this energy. Now, the gate 60 line 5 is the universalization of the energy, or the way the world sees this energy playing out in the collective. And it's also, you could say, the most exemplified or the exaltation of the energy of any gate is always going to be the fifth line. And this is called leadership. And the key phrase for this is the energy to handle a lifelong process of dealing with limitations. So if you see, we've evolved to the point where now you see the limitations as something that is part of life. You understand that that is part of your life and that you can work with it because it is no longer something that is nagging at you or irritating, because you see that this is part of the world that you live in. So for instance, if you have outdoor pump where you have to pump water, and every day you say, oh, it's so limiting, I really wish I had water running in my house, but that's not a possibility. So every day it becomes more of a, okay, I can deal with this, until eventually you get to the gate 60 line 5 and you say, well, this is part of my life and I'm okay with the way it is. Or alternatively, you come to a breaking point once again where you feel you can't take anymore. Now, if you do get to the breaking point, yes, that's part of being human. Sometimes that will happen. We'll get to a breaking point where we just don't want to do it anymore. But ultimately, again, that's usually the time where we find that we get to the tipping point where things start to shift. And that could be when the person comes and they start saying that we have a new project and we're going to put pipes in everybody's house and we're going to have running water in everybody's house. So there is potential to find some beauty and gifts within this energy. And if we look at Pluto as a planet, this is a planet that says we will put you in a cocoon, we will redo you all over, and you will come out as a butterfly. But it's not easy, of course, to be in that cocoon. It's not easy to not know how it's going to shape up in the long run. But ultimately, there is beauty in the transformation that can come at the end of it. With mutative energy, we never know when the transformation will come, only that we know it will come. And we do know that as 2024, we move into 2024 and going forward with the gate 41, there will be a shifting energy, big shifts. We also have Neptune shifting, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So we have a lot of energy that is saying, okay, you're doing great, keep going. You may not see the universe working on your behalf, but just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. And if that's the only thing you remember about 2023, then I think that's a key piece of information that can get you through the trials that you sometimes will hit, the blocks that we'll hit as we move through life, because that's just part of being alive. So we begin the year with Neptune in the gate 36 line 1. So we're going to run the full gamut for all the lines of the gate 36 for 2023. So we are evolving from the line 1 right to the line 6. So if we look at the first line of the gate 36 line 1, it's called resistance. And again, we're getting to the same idea of building a foundation, finding out what energy we need, what experiences we need to move us forward. That's what the gate 36 is really talking about, because it is called chaos or crisis, but the crisis comes from the idea that we are going into a new experience, and every new experience that we go into, if we don't have any intel or ideas of how it's going to play out, or we don't have the experience to actually fall back on, it is going to be a little chaotic. It is going to be a little off in that we are not used to anything. Because the first time you ever drove a car, for instance, if you drive a car, you get in the car, you might have looked at other people doing it, watched something about people doing it, but until you're behind the wheel, you're trying to drive, it doesn't really show you where your inexperience is or where you need to improve. And that is what the gate 36 line 1 really talked about. It also talked about the idea that change is necessary in your life, but maybe you didn't really want to change. Maybe you thought, oh, the status quo is better than anything that's a little scary in experience, something I'm not experienced with. I would rather just stay where I am and not actually go somewhere else. But the gate 36 said, no, you're going to go somewhere else. You are going to get some new experience, whether you like it or not. And that's what Neptune was really telling us. But the other thing that Neptune is bringing in is this idea that it's not really showing you what you need until you're kind of thrown into the deep end, and then you've got to figure it out. And that's kind of why it is a little bit of this idea of being veiled until, the illumination comes. But having said that, there's a lot of experience that we can get from Neptune being in the gate 36 and really showing us what we need to get so that we can have a better experience in life. And the experiences that come through the gate 36 are usually a one and done. It doesn't mean you have to keep doing the same thing over and again. I talked about the car, but that could be almost the first experience is your experiential energy or abstract. And then when you continue to drive and do it over and over and again, then that becomes sort of a logical energy where you're doing the pattern of what it feels like to drive. But experience as itself from the gate 36 is a one energy where it comes in, it's hot, and it kind of burns out as soon as it's done. By the end of January, we're moving into the gate 36 line 2, and we'll have that energy for the full month of February. And so the month of February will be all about the gate 36 line 2. And this is about a talent for crisis or chaos, or even getting the right call to the experience that you need to move you forward in life. What will advance you in life, or what experiences do you need that will fulfill you almost? Because, that's what our lives are about. That's what being human is about. That is the difference between being an animal and being human, is that humans actively go out and look for experiences, where animals are just happy to do, the survival thing. We as humans need to have some new and exciting things to make us feel as though we truly are living our lives on purpose. So now we get into this level of an experience that we're in, and it's a little bit scary and we may not know what we're doing, but this is saying right now we're going to give you the help you need to make it through this crisis, or to make it through this chaos that you are going through. The key phrase for this is assistance to others in times of decline, or assistance in times of decline. And that means that you're getting the help that you need when things are not going as you want them to go. Neptune is exalted in the gate 36 line 2, so that is probably the energy we're going to get, which means we are getting the help and assistance that we need when things are not getting a little bit out of control, and we have something or someone that comes in and helps us to move forward, to get the experience that we need, but also to have the assistance to get through the trials of it and to move forward. The key with any experiential energy, especially the gate 36, is to go through the energy and to continue with the experience until you have the end of it. Because what happens with abstract energy is if you don't continue on, then you'll always wonder what it could have been had you continued to move forward. And that can bring regret and a what if, and what would have happened had I done that kind of energy. Because we always know that any abstract energy has a cyclical nature, which means there's a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And unless you go through all parts of that cycle, it can be problematic in that there's always that kind of voice in your head that says, what could have been? If I had have written that whole book, what would have happened? Could that have been a bestseller? Could it have been something that made my life different? By March, we move into the gate 36 line 3, and this is called transition. We could say the energy of the gate 36 has a similar theme to the third line in general. So when we get to the 36 line 3, we get even more experimentation and discovering what experience is really meant for you. Where do you really need to put your energy in life? And this is about life. So this is really kind of experimenting where you're putting your energy, your personal energy, as you move forward in your life. This is also, you could say, a turning point where you start to be looking at what you've been doing your whole life, all the things that you've been doing even up until this moment, and you start to see that things are not working out the way you want them to. And you start to decide that you want to shift. Something in your life is important enough to change a trajectory, because you know that where you're going right now is not going to lead you to where you want to go. So we could say it's the end of the road, there's no going back, and it's really about how you move with the flow of life. You can push against the flow of life and say you're not going to go the way that the universe is directing you or sort of guiding you, but we know that change always comes no matter if we decide it's going to come or not. That is the impermanence of life. But the caveat is that for some true change to happen in your life, we usually have to let go of something so that we can move forward. It's if you have a renovation in your house and you put all the same old things in your house again, but you just put it in a different way, it's not going to really be changing much about your house. A renovation of a house most times means that you have to bring a lot of new things into your house, and eventually it gets messy before it gets beautiful. And that's kind of how this can be. It can be messy before you really see the benefits of the changes that you're bringing into your life. And then we get into a really interesting line, and this happens sort of the end of March, and for about 3/4 of April, we will have this energy in play, and it's the gate 36 line 4. This is called espionage, and this is a really interesting energy in that it is a time when, if you are open and aware, you might get information that can give you a heads up or an added advantage to move you forward. This is inside information that not everybody has. And if we remember that the 4th line is really about our social groups or the people that we hang out with, then that's where you may get this information from. It might come from something innocent that somebody says, but it suddenly kind of rings a bell inside of you and you realize that this is important information. It could be even information that you need to start to move in the direction that you want to shift your trajectory, because you've already seen with the gate 36 line 3 that change is necessary. And this is potentially giving you the information that you need so that you can make the change that you do want to make. And the type of information that you can get can be esoteric, it can be spiritual, it can be of the mundane world, it can be of any kind, but it in some way is assisting you forward. So be aware as much as you can be when this energy starts to move in. And as you can see, I have all the dates for when the lines will be activated on the screen here, so that way you can use it for a guide so you'll know exactly when the energy is going to shift up. And April 20th, we get into the gate 36 line 5, and this is where we are at the exemplification or the exalted version of the gate 36, where we see exactly what it means. And now that means that this is a time where chaos and crisis might show up in the world. And that's not to scare anybody, because when we see these type of energy, we know that this is a place where we need experience, or we need to find out what we need to find out. So going forward, we can change it and shift it so that we can get a better perspective or something better in the long run after we have decided what we need to shift and change. And the thing about this is that when we get to the 5th line, just like we did when we hit the 5th line of Pluto with the gate 60 line 5, it's that we have this kind of resilience that we've built up as we've moved through the energy, and now we can see crisis and chaos and not get stressed out and think that the world is coming to an end. We can see that there is something of value in everything that's happening in the world, and that these things that pop up, or these little fires that pop up around the world, they're important for us to know that this is going to change something going forward. With Neptune in the gate 36, this could be related to diseases or things that kind of present themselves in a way that we haven't seen them present themselves before. This could be related to sexuality as well. People that are doing things behind closed doors that might come to the forefront that we may see what they're doing. It could be hidden clubs or hidden things that we've never seen before, and suddenly Neptune, when it feels like it, can show the world what's happening behind closed doors. And when it does, if something needs to be changed, then that's when we see it and we can start to make constructive changes in the world that we want to see going forward. And then finally, we'll get to, in May 24th, 2023, we get to Neptune in the gate 36 line 6, and this is where Neptune's already looking to the gate 25 that we're going to be hitting in 2024, and saying, okay, what is a combination of this energy? What kind of experiences do I need so that I can evolve my spiritual self in some way? Because we know that the gate 25 is the love of spirit, and it is this idea of universal love, where we see that everybody is part of the universal theme of existence, and everybody is part of the tapestry of life. So the gate 36 line 6 is really cool line in that I'm looking forward to this, because it is saying that eventually the powers of darkness will be vanquished. And the key phrase says, the knowledge and attendant faith that the powers of darkness eventually destroy themselves. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. The correctness of crisis when it arises out of pure feelings. So in other words, it says that maybe things were chaotic, and maybe we saw a lot of things getting really in crisis as the first part of the year happened. And then we're starting to see that there is a solution to this, and that the darkness or the powers that have been working against humanity, trying to bring us down, are going to be kind of muted or brought down a couple notches. I really liken this to the part in the movie where if you're watching a movie and you have a lot of the bad guys and they seem to keep getting things or getting ahead, and you think, okay, well, now's the time where these guys need to start losing and the good guys, and I always say that in quotations, start winning. And this is kind of the point at which the good guys potentially are going to start winning, or even for yourself, where things are starting to move in the direction that you really want it to move. And it's almost like you have a bit of wind in your sails, and it's allowing you to move forward and to do the things you want to do, to get the experience you need, so that as you move on, you're becoming stronger, more resilient, and more confident in where you're going in your future. And one date of note, and that is from February 6th to the 23rd, we will have the full 35-36 channel being activated between Mars and Neptune. And when I said that we have these illuminations or these moments of time when we might be able to see beyond the veil and to actually really know what's happening beneath the scene, or the crisis or chaos, the things that we need to fix in our lives, and we have an opportunity to actually see it happen. Well, this could be an opportunity where you start to see where there's places in your life that need to be fixed, the cracks in the foundation, and you can start to fix the parts of your life that maybe are not going the way they're supposed to. And now you have the intel and the tools you need to move forward. Of course, there'll be other times when this can happen, and that will be when the sun or the earth are in the gate 35, and that'll be happening 2 times a year. And Venus and Mercury will also go through the energy at some point in the year as well. And if you want to check out my community page, I always give you a heads up on the transits and how they're playing out every week, and I do a daily post. Now, when we get to Uranus is actually going to be in the gate 2 until May 8th, 2023. And it's been there for a lot of 2022. So it's something that we've kind of become accustomed to, this energy for putting us on the right direct line to where we're meant to go, to our life purpose. Because the gate 2 is housed, you could say, in the magnetic monopole, or this place that is a theoretical place that has us on the right life path for ourselves, where we are doing and being who we are meant to be, as opposed to doing and being who other people might want us to be. This is an internal guidance system, or GPS, that puts us on the trajectory to your true north, that takes you to the place where only you are meant to be. Because we all have our own specific life path, life purpose, the place that we're meant to go, what we are meant to do for this incarnation. And Uranus has been trying to guide us along, to guide you through 2022, and it will continue to guide you until May 2023 to get you on the best path for you if you're open and aware to the urgings that it's giving you. This is the last chance for this to happen, because it won't return to this energy for another 82 years. It doesn't mean you're going to miss the boat, but it does mean that awareness, openness, and allowing the universe to speak to you, whatever way that works for you, can really work to your advantage, so you can get on the best path for you to move forward in your life. Your inner knowing is the one that tells you from your own space of your energy where you know where you're going. Nobody has to tell you, because that internal guidance is clicked on and ready to go to take you exactly where you're meant to go, to be your best version of who you are and who you want to be going forward. On May 9th, 2023, Uranus will move into the gate 23, and it'll be in the gate 23 right until June 2024. So it's going to be in there for a very long time. But it doesn't go through all the lines. It only hits the gate 23, line 5. And once again, this idea of a planet repeating some of 2022 is happening again, because we know that Uranus is going to repeat the trajectory of the gate 2, but also the gate 23. It was in the gate 23 for a very short stint, from August 14th to September 3rd, 2022. So it kind of gave us a taste of what that meant. And it was only in the gate 23, line 1, which is proselytization, which, as we know, is a foundational energy for the gate 23. The gate 23 is assimilation. This is an energy that is extremely mutative, and it is a mind energy. So in other words, this is projected energy, and it will only be received in the best possible way when people are asking for your insights or your mutative downloads. This is energy for huge transformative mutations that can shift the world. And with Uranus here, it really does talk about technology and anything related to alternative or really unusual things that are being developed in the world. We also can say that the gate 23 is called an immoral gate or amoral gate. And what that means is that inventions, new innovations, new technology, a lot of times don't worry about what's in place already. In other words, when we have these new and innovative ideas, they don't care about what's happening to the people who are doing these jobs that are maybe going to be obsolete when we have this new technology come in. And that's what it means when it's called amoral or amoral. So that is what we know, that when this energy comes, it comes as a force, and it can bring some hugely innovative ideas, innovative things that we've never seen before, but it can also kind of ruffle a lot of feathers. This really does look like a rise of AI, because we know that that's already happening, but we also might have some of this concept of, do we really want to move forward in the way we are, rushing so quickly? And there might be some pushback on that, as much as there is this advance to get more and more AI to run the world. Now, from a personal perspective, the gate 23 is really talking about this idea that the less we use of our words, or the more succinct we are when we're trying to explain ourselves, the better things will work out for us. Because if we're trying to be more convoluted and complex in our explanations, people may not get us. If we look at the picture of the card that is representative of the gate 23, we see this castle that is in the glass orb, and the whole point of it is, how do we get that castle out of the glass orb in a way that we can put it outside of the orb and other people can, you know, touch it or look at it or whatever it is, because that's the whole point of the gate 23. We're trying to find the right words to get those ideas, those innovations, those things that we have inside of us out into the real world, so that we can move it to the next step to have it manifest in the real world. Now, one of the best ways to show this energy is with Steve Jobs, who had the energy of the gate 43, which would have hooked into the gate 23 with his partner. And it did talk about this idea that he had these big ideas within his mind, and he articulated them in a way that people could understand them. And it does take time, because this is new mutative energy that we've never seen before. Especially with Uranus, it really is going to be out there and unusual, and people may kind of look at you a little bit like as if you may have no idea what you're talking about. But in the right circumstances, this is something that can be activated, that can take off, and can really change your life and the life of a lot of people in the world. And this energy in play with Uranus directing it for a good part of 2023 really does talk about this idea of new and unusual and really unique information, or even unique contributions, or you being unique is going to be something that people are actually aligning with and feeling that that's the way of the future. So in other words, being unusual and your own really unique self is something that is 100% encouraged as we go through 2023. When we move to Saturn, Saturn's going to finally be moving out of the gate 49, and it is going to be moving into the gate 30, and that happens sort of on the 19th of January, and we won't see this energy for another 28 or 29 years. And I think that Saturn being in the gate 49 has really caused a lot of the revolutions that we're seeing, and we're seeing even recently the newer revolutions that we're seeing in the new ways people are pushing against the system. This is Saturn really pushing against the limits of anything that people have felt has been not something that they want to work with anymore. And that has been revolutionary energy. Now we're moving into the gate 30, and this is called the energy of the fates, or it is also considered the clinging fire. Now, this works in tandem with the gate 41, which is the beginning of everything. And it is the gate 41 that is part of the energy of the Humandesign New Year body graph every year, because it is the beginning of the mandala. The gate 30 is this idea of holding on to a dream. It gives you the impetus to keep going, even though things may not look as if they're, working in your favor. It keeps you going to the destination that you really want to go to. It keeps you pushing forward. Now with Saturn here, this is really talking about this idea that if you want to continue to move forward with your dreams and goals, this is saying that it's not going to be potentially easy, because Saturn doesn't make anything easy. The thing about Saturn is it says work hard, get your ducks in a row, do all the things you're supposed to do, and I will give you a reward at the end, but you really have to make it worth my while. You have to put the work in. Now, we did see a bit of the gate 30, Saturn moving through the gate 30 in 2022. So it's doing its final pass through, and it won't again be here for another 28 to 29 years. So we're looking at from January 20th to March 8th, we have the gate 30 in play, and it will go through each line of the energy as it does with every gate. And each line is kind of telling you that, okay, Saturn is going to make you work for what you want. It's going to make you really decide whether or not you're going to put the effort and energy into what those things are that you really want to have in your life. But the gate 30 or the fates bring us something else. It says, okay, it may be hard work and it may be kind of frustrating it sometimes, but I'm also going to give you a way to work with the energy or these strategies that can help you get through those times where it can be a little tough. And it goes through each particular line. I have a whole video on all the fates and all the particular lines, and they are connected to each person's profile. So in other words, the gate 30 line 1 can be connected to the profiles 1, 3, and 1, 4. So it might be even more impactful of a time when this energy is in play for anybody with those particular profiles. And if we look at the gate 30 line 2, that is going to connect with the profiles 2, 4, and also 2, 5. And it really is saying, don't worry, don't go this way, go this way. We have an alternative for you. And if you take it, we will assist you along the way, but you kind of have to play by the rules of Saturn. And if you do play by the rules of Saturn, then you can get ahead and move forward to the next step of your journey. But if you don't play, then that's when things can get a little more tangled up. So the first line is composure, and that is this idea of exactly that, having composure when blocks coming your way and understanding that everything is impermanent, everything is transient, and what blocks you today might be gone tomorrow. When we get to the second line, it's pragmatism. It is this energy of always putting your energy in everything, as opposed to always thinking that the only place to put your energy is to put it into that successful thing in your life. In other words, when things stop moving forward and you're feeling frustrated because you have all this energy pent up and you're not putting it in anything but this whole moving forward thing, it's also telling you to say that there are pauses in life, and that's a time to use your energy for the pauses in life, to have your reflection, to realize where things may be improved, to tweak what is, and then when things start to move again, you have an ability to shift it up so you're getting more from the effort that you're putting in, which is really a lot more impactful for us. If we're working really hard, we want to get the most we can from it. We get to the third line. This is resignation. This is really saying that, okay, this is what I see in my reality, and I have to accept life as it is, as opposed to the way I want it to be. This is saying that life may not be the way I want it to be. I can work in the future to shift it up, to change it, to make it into what I want it to be. But right now, this is what I have, and I have to accept what is. When we get to the line 4, this is burnout, and this is saying that there is a need for all of us to have the pauses in our lives, because especially with the gate 30, there's an intensity and a burning, clinging fire that will burn you out. So this is saying at some point in your life, or at some points of your year ahead, you need to stop, you need to pause, you need to reflect, because that is the only way that you get that second wind to push forward. When we get to the line 5, this is irony. This is the key with this, is the idea that when the door closes, you let go and you move on. Because when one door closes, a new door opens. The problem is sometimes we will get, that one door that closed, and we'll be banging on the door saying, let me back in, but nobody's letting you in because it's not part of your life anymore. You're meant to go to a new door. And when you let go of what was and move into what is your new destination, then that's when things can start to unfold in a way that is really impactful and things can start to move again. When we get to the 6th line, this is again this idea of being the best version of yourself, because this is the role model energy. This is for the profile 6-2 and 6-3. And it says that no matter what everybody else is doing, you bringing your best self to the table is key to your advancement in life. So even if people are doing things that are cutting corners or they're not being the best version of who they are, that's not your trajectory. Your trajectory is to stand in your truth, to be the best version of you, because that's the way you get ahead in life. And on March 8th, we get Saturn moving into the gate 55. And the big theme with the gate 55 is always this theme of surrender, but also divine selfishness, because the 6th line of the gate 55 is really where we're moving forward as we move towards 2027, this idea of divine selfishness. Divine selfishness is the idea that when you don't give yourself something, or you don't take care of yourself and you put all your energy out into taking care of other people, then you don't necessarily have much to give. You must serve from a full cup, because if your cup is empty, you really don't have anything to give to others. So this is saying, put your oxygen mask on first, and then after you have your mask on, then put it on others. And Saturn is really reminding us about that. It is saying that we really do need to put our energy into ourselves, because if we can't put ourselves first, then how can we expect anybody else to respect us or to put us first either? We all have to have our own authority. We all have to be our own bosses and to stand in our own integrity. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a narcissist. It doesn't mean that you're selfish. It does mean that you are important, you are valuable. And the thing about this is that Saturn may really want to push this agenda of this self-sufficiency and also this self-care and taking care of yourself, in that if you aren't doing what you need to do for yourself first, you may be finding that things are not working to your advantage. So I think in a lot of ways, Saturn here is going to really remind you that if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not really going to get those goals and dreams and those things that you want ahead to happen, because you're not actually doing the rules. Like I said, again, Saturn is by playing the rules. Now, if you look at, for instance, in a body graph, we say that the Saturn rules or the Saturn lessons will give us the abundance or the joy from the Jupiter and the gifts that we're meant to have. But we also have to do the hard work with Saturn in order to get the gifts. Now, the hard work here is to be someone who cares about yourself, who decides that you're important just like anybody else is. And another theme that we might see is this idea of surrender to what the universe is going to give you, to understand that even if you can't see everything happening in front of you, it still can be happening. To understand that there are times in your life that you're not going to know what is going to happen, but to have strength and resilience in the idea that your surrender to what is going to come can really allow you to sit with the energy and to be open and aware when things do show up in your trajectory. Saturn here can absolutely connect with a lack mentality. So that is something to keep in mind, because it will be easy to fall into this idea that nothing is coming, nobody's going to help you, you're always going to be whatever it is your theme is. But this is saying that that isn't true, and to let go and to allow the universe to show you what it wants to show you. But again, you may even hear this around you, that people are just getting into this lack kind of focus, and really to shield yourself from that and to kind of move into energy where you have this belief that you know that you are going to be cared for, that the universe does have your back. And even if nothing is showing you right in this moment, it doesn't mean that's a forever moment. It can shift at any point. And the gate 55, when we're not playing by the rules, can really show us some tough lessons in life. So that's why getting this lesson early on, doing some self-care, taking care of you, and trusting in the universe can really help you to navigate this energy, because Saturn's going to be in here for a fair bit of 2023. So it's an important energy to really align and understand as you go through 2023. And on May 6th, we have Saturn moving through the gate 37. This is talking about this energy of peace, family. This is tribal energy. And with Saturn here, this is talking about food supply. It is talking about community. It is talking about all those types of energy. So we could say that this is a continuation of the energy of the gate 49. And it is kind of talking about how we feed ourselves and the way we find our community, and that maybe the old ways need to change and that we are moving forward into something brand new. So new types of communities, new ways of forming communities, new ways of feeding ourselves, new ways of traditions. New traditions might be a big deal too with Saturn here, because what we're trying to do when Saturn goes through an energy is we're breaking up the patterns of the old and trying to bring in some fresh energy. Saturn is the old way, the old things that we've always decided were going to be the way it's always been, but eventually we know that things have to change, and that's what Saturn brings. It's this bringing this kind of change of energy where we know that the tired old systems no longer work. The gate 37 also talks about religion and looking for the face of God and looking for something to believe in. So we might see that a lot of the old religions, or the religions that are in play at this point, are starting to shift and change in some way. And whenever we know that things are shifting and changing, we always know that there's going to be an increased grip or force against that change, especially with Saturn, because people want to hold on to the old and they don't want to let go. So we might see this rise of fundamentalism. Maybe that's going to happen. More people are trying to incorporate religion into pretty much everything in life, which I don't think is going to really work, because we have a lot of mutative energy that's playing out in the collective as much as we are with the tribal energy. But this is really kind of forcing the agenda and trying to have things always the same, status quo. The gate 37 can be a very sweet energy, a very happy energy, a very nice energy when you get together with your family and have traditions. But with Saturn here, it can really kind of make those traditions almost feel like concrete, where you can't move outside of them. Again, this will move and it will kind of fall apart eventually, because that's what happens. We know that the old systems eventually have to fall apart, and maybe we have new beliefs, new traditions, new ways of connecting with spirituality and connecting with a higher force, whatever that is. And that's what we might look forward to as Saturn moves through this energy. And Jupiter is going to be moving through a lot of different energies for 2023. We won't get into every single one of them. We've already talked a lot about the gate 25 for 2022, and Jupiter is going to make its final pass for another 12 or so years, and then it will move on to other energy, and it's going to go back into the gate 17. So again, we're going to continue on right up until really February, where Jupiter's reviewing and revisiting the same energy it visited in 2022. So in February 18th, it moves into the gate 21, and this is the gate of control. Now, if we look at this from a Jupiterian perspective, this is rules, regulations, laws. It can be higher learning and education, and it is connected to the gate 21, which is related to, it's half of the channel of money, or the money line. And this is talking about financial system. So we might see new rules show up in the financial system, things that maybe we haven't seen before. And I would say potentially maybe there'll be new rules for the Bitcoin, whether you like that or not. I'm not saying I want that to happen or I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying that might be potential, because Jupiter is really talking about rules and regulations for money systems, monetary things, and those types of things. So that might shift in some way. The gate 21 is tribal energy, and it really is the treasurer that is trying to control, to get all the the abundance together so that you can survive when you don't have something. Although Jupiter likes to expand, I don't think it's going to be really happy in this energy when we're trying to control the money and those types of things. So it could be a little bit of a push pull where we have this need for control, but we also have this need to expand. So finding the middle way might be key to moving forward for this energy. It may be a time where we might be able to see some big gains in monetary things, like maybe even the stock market, although Mercury is more connected to the stock market. But having said that, we don't know. There might be some gains where we are expanding the control, but in the long run, it actually does help with things being more streamlined. And if we look at the whole gate 21, we have Jupiter exalted in a couple of lines and also in detriment in one line. So again, it is reinforcing that idea of new rules coming in, but really for the being for the greater good. On March 15th, we have Jupiter moving through the gate 51. And the key phrase for the gate 51 is called the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. So in other words, it's really talking about those moments of shifting and changing that kind of come out of the blue. The thing about the gate 51, it is connected to these life-shifting moments where one thing begins, where we have this kind of perception of what life is, and then after that event happens, we change completely. This can be spiritually, this can be mundane, or in the real world, physical energy, or in some way, it could be a new rule that completely shifts the world around us because we didn't see it coming this way. The gate 51 is also competition or needing to be first, and this is, again, mutative energy, and it is coming out with something brand new. So there might be this push or drive or this expansive energy to try and get that new thing, that new innovation out into the world and be the first to get it out there. It may not be the best, but it may be the first that happens. And we might see a lot of first things happening, not necessarily going to be the final product, but it is something brand new that we're seeing kind of come out into the world. And, with Uranus in the gate 23, this kind of does add to that emphasis of the energy of something different showing up in the trajectory. But as with all gate 51, it is this idea that we may see some shocking events happen, big, expansive, shocking events happen that we hadn't expected that they would happen. But again, these shocking events can lead us into a new understanding of what the world means to us, about what life means to us, and basically never being able to look at the world through the same lens again, and we see things from a brand new perspective. April 8th, we have Jupiter moving into the gate 42, and this is maximizing our benefits, trying to get the most out of something that is already started. This is the other side of the gate 53. So if we look at, for instance, the gate 53 that happened in the new year, and I mean the new Gregorian new year, the January 1st new year, we might see some things that we have planted start to show some sprouts, some seeds are really coming to fruition, and we can start to see something growing that we planted a while back. Or things are not working the way we want it to, and we're deciding to maybe do something else, to reconfigure, to plant something new, to close that cycle out and to open something new because that isn't working the way you want it to. So you could see some real growth happening, or you could see things that are not working, but it's also good in that if something isn't working, it's better to know rather than continuing to put more energy into something and it's just not working for your advantage. This is a time where we might see some guru type of people who are considered gurus in the world who might have a passing, or they might pass away, because the gate 42 can also be the gate of endings and completely finishing this life process altogether. So that's something to keep in mind. May 1st to 25th, we have Jupiter moving into the gate 3, and that's going to bring us the full 360 channel, which will be in play a couple times as the year progresses, because we also have a nodal shift that's going to bring this whole energy in play as well. So this is a time for anybody who is normally has an open sacral center, and that would be manifestors, projectors, and also reflectors, to really watch your energy so that you know that you can use the energy that you have that is activated in a way that is very productive, where you're using the energy to your benefit and it's not using you, because there is a potential that you can overdo it if you don't navigate this energy in a way where you're getting what you need, but you're also getting the rest you need. So you know what's best for you. And as long as you're working with the energy in a way that is beneficial, then you can really reap a lot of benefits from this energy or this transit. And it will be in play quite a bit, as I said, and I'll talk about it later on when I talk about the nodal shifts. And this is one more way where we're looking at the energy of 2023 as something very mutative, something innovative, something as we've never seen it before, brand new energy that is going to really shift the collective. Now, we may not see it happen in 2023, but these are the seeds that are being planted, or even the children that are being born, that are going to bring hugely mutative energy and ideas to the collective. So this is where we might have a lot of really innovative and mutative energy that is being introduced to the collective, where we may see some progress, but we may not also see it until further along the line in maybe 2024 going forward. Now, we do have a lot of Jupiter being in the gate 27. It spends a fair bit of time in the gate 27 as we move forward. And what that's really talking about is an expansion on how we feed ourselves, how we nurture ourselves. So we might see a lot of kind of programs where we are really putting a focus on the rules and regulations for how we get our food, for how we are sourcing our food. Maybe there's going to be more rules and regulations on pesticides and those types of things that are used kind of uniformly, and maybe we're understanding that they're not necessarily as good as we think, and maybe they're harmful not only to the environment but almost to everybody, because in some way it's causing us to get sicker because of our immunity or something like that. So this could be rules and regulations that are shifting based on the needs that we have for our nourishment, for caring. This might be talking about how we care for ourselves, an expansion of this idea of self-care, self-sufficiency, and one more push for this idea of growing your own food or taking care of yourself in some way, and less kind of emphasis on the government and what they can bring to you, and more emphasis on what you can bring to yourself. This is sourcing things that are community based, that are tribal based, where you're kind of coming together as a community to feed yourself. And if we look at Saturn in the gate 37 as well, these are kind of lining up. Saturn saying, okay, you're going to need to come up with some new traditions. And the gate 27 with Jupiter there is saying, okay, now we're going to come up with something new ways of caring for ourselves, new ways of nurturing ourselves, new ways of providing ourselves with the nourishment we need. And that's what Jupiter is going to bring. So you could say that they're working in tandem. Saturn showing the problem and Jupiter is trying to fill it. And again, with Jupiter, it is very expansive. So it might be a lot of bigness before it starts to settle into something that is more usable and more user-friendly. And Jupiter goes into the gate 24, and it will go in there from June 22nd. That's when it will begin. And of course, it will retrograde later on. We've talked a lot about the gate 24. The nodes were in the gate 24 and the 44. And this is about addiction. This is about going back to the same thing over and again. This is about choosing to go with what everybody thinks, or to choosing to decide what you want to think, as opposed to kind of going with the pack mentality of what everybody else is saying or doing. This is potentially could be an expansion in conspiracy theories, which we've seen a lot of over the last couple of years with a lot of activation of the gate 24. This is just one more way, and this could be connected to spiritual leaders, conspiracy theories connected to spiritual leaders and spiritual gurus, you could say. This is also this idea of an expansion of addiction programs, higher education for addiction, how we can work with addiction in a way where we're starting to find ways to help people that they need. Because the last couple of years with Pluto going in the gate 61 and those types of things, it really did bring that energy to the forefront and said, okay, we need some hardcore ideas on how we can really help people to get their health back. And as I said before, this could be connected to more natural ways of working with addictions and addictive behavior as 2023 goes on. And last but not least, we have Jupiter moving into the gate 2, and this is really following into the energy of Uranus's path last year in 2022. So Jupiter is revisiting the energy of the gate 2, but it's bringing its own spin. And this is really talking about potentially your spiritual path. It could be really talking about the trajectory for your spiritual way, how you want to move forward. This could be talking about the path that you want to take for higher education, or it might even be the path that we're taking for rules and regulation and how we move forward into 2023. What are the rules, regulations, and the things that we need to work with the collective and to get us on the best trajectory as a collective going forward? And as a personal trajectory, this is sort of giving you more, I guess you could say, energy to move in the direction that Uranus might have picked out for you or pointed out for you in 2022. And this is Jupiter saying, okay, now you have your direction. I'll give you the wind in your sails. I'll give you the energy that you need so that you can start to work towards getting that place that you want to go, because now you have it in sight. And now I'm going to give you the impetus and the push to move you forward. But again, this is very expansive energy, and it may want to push a little too hard, get a little too expansive. So moderation in all things will always serve you best. And finally, we have the nodal shifts as we move through 2023. And we begin the year with the nodes in the gate 24 and also the gate 44. And we had a lot of that energy for 2022. And again, it's kind of carrying on into February 5th. And then we're going to go into some new energy. And this again is talking about what I just talked about. The gate 44 is also this idea of patterns and patterns repeating. And when we actually started with the gate 44 as a south node energy, this is really kind of pushing us into this idea of working with the awareness gates, or the energy of the spleen and the awareness of the spleen. And we also can call these, originally called the fear gates, because they do activate some splenic fears in us, but they also activate an intuition and also an awareness. So through the energy of working with this each gate that we have that we're working through, and we will be as the nodes go through, we have an opportunity to have some great insights, healing, and to actually work with the energy in a way where we are pushing through whatever fears have held us back and getting ahead in life, and no longer allowing anything to pull us back from the trajectory that we have planned for ourselves. With the gate 44, it is this idea of smelling something that from the past that is going to repeat. And though we can oftentimes look at the past as being something that we don't want to repeat, there are also things that we have been happy about that have happened in the past. And we can look, as much as we look at the negative perspective, we can look at positive things happening. And if we see that things are not going in the way we want to, or are patterns repeating that we don't want to repeat, then this is where we can stop it in its tracks and move it in a new direction, because you have the awareness that you can see something and you can have the opportunity to shift it if you desire. Now, when we get to February 6, 2023, we are moving into the gate 27 and also the gate 28. Now, the gate 27 is a north node, and that is where we're moving, and the gate 28 is where we're coming from. Now, we also remember that the way the nodes work when we're having them transit throughout the years, we would say the first half of the transit is where we have the energy of the south node being more prevalent, and then the second half is where the energy of the north node is more prevalent. Now, the south node is going to be in the gate 28, and this is this energy for what is possible in your life, but it also can be the gate of struggle and the gate of fear of death. So remember that you might have the awareness of what the energy means for you, and you might be able to see it the way it is, but not everybody may feel that. And so the aura of energy may have this fear within it, and being aware of what that is happening, what it means to you, and not allowing it to take you away on that energy of potential fear that is not actually real. Because remember, this is fear that may not even be real. It is just something that can be there that is instinctive, that you think that it's there, but it may not necessarily be the case. The whole point of the gate 28 is really trying to find the meaning of life. What is the point of your incarnation? What is the reason why you're here? And this is where we feel like if we don't have a point to our existence, we feel aimless in life. And what is the point of it? But this says that there is always something worthwhile to fight for. And if you keep moving forward in life, that's when mutation, gate 28 is mutative energy, it is individual energy, where you find and discover the reason for your existence, the reason for why you are here. This is also pushing through struggles and understanding that every struggle you push through has a reason. It's not just there to trip you up. It is there to teach you something. And when you learn the lesson, then you can not only gain awareness from what you've learned, but you can also use that as a new tool in your tool belt as you move through life. And you can also use it with other people and assist them in their journey to understand what you've learned. You can show them the possibilities of life, because as much as we have this ability to struggle, we have this ability to let go and to surrender and let the universe show you where you're meant to walk and what you're meant to do to guide you. And when you allow the universe to guide you, then that's when things seem to get a little easier. The gate 28 is the gate of possible, the gate of I can do it, the gate of I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to keep working with the life that I'm given. From a global perspective, this is a gate of transitoriness. Now, this is also saying that we might see people who have a lot of power falling from grace and people who have not as much power rising in power. And that's the whole thing about the gate 28. It is the energy of transitoriness where the power can be going up or can come down. So that's something that we might see. Now, if we look at the gate 27, where the North Node is going to be, we see that every struggle in our life can be solved or can be assisted with self-care, with caring for who we are, for caring for with life, but caring in general can help us with the struggles of our lives, especially self-care. And again, this goes back to the gate 55, where we have Saturn moving through. It is this divine selfishness to take care of yourself, to understand that you are worthy, that you are just as worthy as the energy that you give to anybody else, to treat yourself with respect, with love, with attention. And then when you have a full cup, then you can give it to others. And this is what this energy is really telling us. This is a big nodal shift that can really shake the world around us. And you can see this happening with the powers that really are changing and how things are moving. And I'll be interested to see how this plays out in the real world. Now, if you have these nodes in your body graph or even the gates, and I say that for all of the transits as we go through 2023, but especially with the nodes, this can be extremely impactful. And it doesn't have to be negative. I don't mean it in that way, but it can be in fact impactful in your life, is totally changing in some way that is really kind of making a brand new cycle going forward. So let's see how that plays out. June 23rd to August 26th, we have the nodes moving into the gate 3 and also the gate 50. And this is again where we're going to have a full 360 channel, and that's with Pluto and also the North Node. So again, this will give us the sacral energy. So it's always about this idea of using the energy in the best way that it works for you and not letting it burn you out, because that's not what we want. We want you to be able to use the energy that you have at your disposal to get the most out of it and to enjoy the transit as much as possible. So that's the key. The interesting thing about this is we're moving from the South Node to the North Node. Now, the South Node is in the gate 50, and so we look at the gate 50 as a tribal energy. This is a very value-oriented energy. This is about how we bring up our children, you could say, in the mundane world, in the tribal world. This is the values we give them. These are the rules that we teach our children and to teach our generations. So this is how you behave in the world. When we're moving from the South Node to the North Node, we're moving to the gate 3. So we have the stability of the gate 50, but now we're moving to the instability of difficult beginnings, mutative energy that is pushing the agenda, that is saying we need to mutate, we need to change, because if we don't change, nothing will evolve in life. Mutations are how we evolve as generations, as a people, as humanity. Without our mutations, we would never have become where we are right now. We wouldn't have the amount of things that we have, the civilizations and all the things that have been mutative over the years. So we're moving from a place of very stable values now we're moving to something brand new. We're moving again to this innovative, mutative energy that we're talking about for the whole of 2023 that is really saying, if you are unique and an individual, then you're going to do a lot better than if you're trying to be fitting in with the norm. If you're muting yourself, it's not going to work to your advantage this year. If you're living out loud and being who you are, then that can actually be your ticket to the best year of your life and things really moving in the right direction. It doesn't mean that you have to be the center of attention. It just means that your uniqueness, your ability to express yourself in who you are without having to apologize for being yourself is really key to this energy and moving forward. So that's what this energy is really telling you. And then again, this is really going to bring more mutative energy, more innovation that we may not see necessarily right away, but we will see in the future, and more children being born with the 360 channel, bringing in even more evolutionary energy, genetic diversity, and all the things that the 360 can bring to the collective. And keep in mind that the gate 50, again, is an awareness gate. And this is really saying, who are you truly responsible for in your life? This is saying that potentially there could be codependency happening and things where you think that you are responsible for something and you may not necessarily be responsible for it. This is saying that you are responsible for yourself. And sometimes we have this tendency to want to take care of people, even though they're well beyond the point where they need to be cared for. And it doesn't mean you can't be kind and generous and nurturing of other people, but it also says that at some point people have to fly on their own. And this could be adults that are sort of still leaning into this idea that they want to be cared for, and maybe you're depleted. This is a time to really take priorities on who really does need to be cared for and who can easily fly on their own. This is sometimes feeling responsible for everybody and feeling guilty that you're going to let somebody down if you don't kind of do everything that you're meant to do. And this is a time to really heal with those energies and to understand that there are people who can take care of themselves, and to see who those people are, to kind of really have a clarity about going forward, about where you're going to put your energy as you move further into the year and further into 2024. And the final nodal shift that we have will be happening in August, and that will take us right into 2024. And this is where we move into the gate 32 and also the gate 42. So we have the gate 32 that is really talking about, the key word with the gate 32 is always going to be failure. So this could be the aura of, am I going to fail? Am I not going to get ahead? Am I not going to be able to do what I want to do? And again, this is awareness that says the aura might be there. People might be feeling that energy. And this is completely related to the mundane, or it could be related to work. It could be related to resources. It could be related to businesses and those types of things. And when we look at the gate 42, we're looking at trying to maximize the benefits to get the best thing that we can forward, to get the most bang for your buck, you could say. So the gate 32 is also the gate of continuity. And this is about when you think about what I said in the beginning, is as we move forward into, deeper into the year, and we are quite deep into the year when we get into August, it is a time when we could be slowing down. Things are not moving as they did in the beginning of the year. And then you're starting to worry, oh, does this pause in my life mean that things are falling apart? What this says is no, it's not falling apart. But again, this is about, there are pauses, and then there are moments where we move forward, and there are pauses and moving forward, and understanding that that is part of continuity. Continuity is not always going to be going at every single moment of our lives. We know that we have to have a break. We have to have pauses, because if we don't, we'll get burnt out. Everything needs a break. Even motors, machines, they need a break. They need to power down so that they can recharge their batteries. So humans are exactly the same. So when we look at the gate 42 and the gate 32, this is also a time where you actually might be looking at things that are not working the way you want them to. And you may say, okay, I'm going to close the door on this one, and I'm not going to work with this energy anymore. I don't think it's actually of value to me. And that could be the benefit of this, is that you're actually seeing what isn't working in your life. You can let go of it. And this is, again, work related or something connected to how you make your money and the ambitions that you have going through your life. So it's really talking about, is this job giving me what I want? If it's not, then this might be where you're really, connecting with something brand new, looking for something brand new. Or the other perspective is that you're putting more energy into something that you say, yes, this is going in the right direction, the direction I want it to go. It will take time, but I have the patience and the energy to put more energy into this and to continue to advance it again, maximize what I can from it and move forward. The gate 42 is also cyclical energy, so we know that there's always going to be beginnings, middles, and ends, and that means that there are stopping points, as we all know. And also, there might be a potential to want to quit, but maybe you're not necessarily in the best interest. It may not be the best interest for you. So that's something to keep in mind, that there might be that feeling that you just want to quit because you think something's failing, but is it true? And I think your inner knowing is what you really need to tap into to know what is correct for you, to know where you need to put your energy and where the general aura of these nodal shifts is kind of activating something that may not be necessarily true for you. So maybe it feels like things are not going well and it feels like they're failing in some way, but when you really take a hard look at it and start to kind of connect with your inner knowing, you realize that maybe that's not necessarily true for you and that this is a trajectory that you want to continue moving forward on. Well, that's it for the year ahead. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still with me, thanks for coming along for the ride. And I will be back again as year progresses to talk about different transits, eclipses, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and the new and full moons. But until then, take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.